So we're in the middle of a separation. Our wife, our spouse, our girlfriend is keeping the kids from us, is telling them that we're abusive or have a substance abuse problem, is telling family members, is telling you that you cannot see the kids, and it almost seems as though it's a territorial mechanism that she's using against us. We've never really been in this role. We want to fight for this role. We want to fight to be a father. And what I want to talk about today is what we do in this situation, how common it is and how uncommon certain things are, and what we can do to either save the relationship, if that is an option, what we can do for ourselves psychologically, what's going on with her psychology, and how we can do what's best to be the greatest man possible. So that's a lot of stuff in a short video, so let's get started. So my name's Steve Maeda. I'm the founder of Austin Men's Development, and at Austin Men's Development, this is the stuff we talk about. If you have not picked up my ebook on divorce, it's free. It's a link down below. It is for divorced dads, for child in custody, and it will go through a lot of the different stuff when it comes to legal, therapeutic, and how to be your best self. It's really an important guide, and it's free, and you should definitely check it out because it might even answer a lot of the questions in here. So this comes from a question that I got emailed to me, and just thank you guys so much for shooting me the emails, the private messages on Facebook and Instagram and all that sort of good stuff. I do my best to get back to all of them on a lot of the YouTube videos. There's a ton of comments. The best thing that you can do if you have a question or comment, and there's just a ton, especially that come from YouTube now, go on to the Austin Men's Development Facebook group and shoot your message there, and that is the best way for it to be answered. But if you're somebody that's not on social media, hey, I totally understand, man. We live in a crazy world today. Shoot me an email, tell me your story, and anonymously I can make a video much like this one answering whatever questions that you might have. But hopping on the phone or being able to answer privately to a heavy extent, this is my job. And at our groups, we have 30 to 40 hours every week of calls. Tonight is Wednesday when I'm actually recording this, and we're gonna have about 8 hours of calls tonight where guys are able to interact with these questions. And if you're interested in that, check out Men's Development Excellence down below. So when we go through a separation, it's very common, extremely common, yet rare in your life. So meaning this happens to many people where a separation happens, but you only go through one or two major separations within your life, where a woman will take the kids and feel that as though it is a territorial move to keep you from them. And this all revolves around safety, safety of the children, safety of herself. And this is where things get really touchy. And I hope and I pray that in a healthy way that more women are held accountable to this, and this is more acknowledged as a phenomenon, and it needs to be stopped. It's a behavioral thing, which is terrible, that may be linked to some genetic thing, but we're not here to talk about that. So some of the common things that happen when we go through a separation and we have children is she won't let you see them almost immediately. And she's in fear for herself, she's in fear for her life, she's in fear for the children's lives and so on. This usually gets spread out through gossip, through the community that you guys have. That means family members and friends, and this is very harmful and will make a man go insane. But I want to get to a point which is super important in all of this. Is she making a claim legally towards this? Meaning, is she doing this through a lawyer? Is she putting together a protective order? Has she contacted the authorities? Has she filed a restraining order? Have any of these things happened in whatever claim she's making? And those claims are usually having to do with violence, they're having to do with substance abuse, they're having to do with your anger issues, your psychology, and so on. And this is a big factor. So if she's not going to the police, if she's not filing protective orders, or if she's not filing a restraining order against you in any way, shape, or form, this can be taken a little bit less seriously, but still serious. It's just a different road. If she is going to the police, you do need to immediately take legal action. And again, get the download of the Single Dad's Guide to Divorce and Child Custody, because it'll tell you a lot of the things legally that you need to do. But you need to be able to find a lawyer. If you can't afford a lawyer, there's certain steps you can take to protect yourself, but you've got to move into an immediate protective zone. And one of those things, I know nobody wants to pay lawyers. I get it. The divorce and family law and family custody is a business. But that doesn't mean that if you need a lawyer, just because it's a business and it gets exploited, you don't need a lawyer. It means you need to get a lawyer and you need to learn the tools to be able to choose a good lawyer. Those things are discussed heavily in our groups like Men's Development Excellence, which is that group that we're gonna have about 8 hours of calls on tonight. She is saying this and gossiping and telling people and telling your friends, and your reputation's being ruined. That is a huge deal, but legally, you can take a slower move towards it. And again, I'm not a lawyer here. I'm not somebody who is a psychologist. I'm a men's coach. I've been doing this for 15 years and I've literally helped thousands of men through this. And many men go through something like this throughout our lives, or at least once or twice in your life. So I do have a lot of experience in it, but you are the only one who can work on your legal problems. You need to be responsible for them. So always get a lawyer. My advice is not a replacement for your individual case, your individual situation, but I am very good at leading you through this and guiding you through it. So one thing that I want to talk about here is that if she is spreading gossip, number one, the more you fuel that fire, the more you're going to get into trouble. Meaning the more you argue against it, the more you fight her against it, the more you bash her name, the more you play tick for tack, meaning she's saying that you drink too much and you stumbled home and the kids saw you trip and hurt yourself because you were drunk. Doesn't mean that you then need to share about her drunken problems with your family. That is just going to make things worse, because there is a potential that you guys could get back together. Even if there are claims being made to the authorities, there is a chance, happens all the time, where people do get back together, but it will make that worse. And the more drama you have to this, whether you split or stay together, the worse everything's going to be. Let's then move to what steps do you need to take if she's making these claims? Well, number one, you need to clean your side of the street. If you do have anything like this going on, like drinking too much or drinking a little bit, or she's overblowing drinking, stop drinking. You can do it for a month. You can do it for 3 months. You can do that for your kids. If there is something to do with violence, like for myself, heavily involved in combative martial arts, been so for the last 10, 11 years, and a big part of my life. And if anybody makes claims of violence within this, they always point this out. Now that's much more socially acceptable. The UFC's, known everywhere. But 10 years ago, it really wasn't. And I can tell you in the courtroom, that did make a difference. That didn't mean I needed to stop martial arts, but that did mean that I had to start taking on a different role of what these masculine traits are that are attacked by women. This then leads us into a whole nother topic of how our culture may not promote masculinity. That's very important to have. But right now, all those things that you hear are not aspects of your case. They're not aspects of your fatherhood. They're aspects of perhaps the victimization that you felt, and their discussion for another time. Meaning that, yes, men get hated on, criticized for violence and whatnot, but right now you got to deal with your case in front of you, or the situation in front of you, of making sure that's all right. When we have violent claims against us, it's good for us to cut out things that may be seen that way. So on social media, don't promote stuff like that. Don't talk about kicking someone's butt in the gym, or don't talk about how rowdy you are. Don't talk about going to bars and getting wasted or having a good time. Don't try and make her jealous by showing other pictures of you with women, or whatever the situation is. Stop playing games. This is about your family. This isn't a joke. It's not something to take lightly. This is something that is really particular, and if we didn't answer this question enough here, get on our calls, sign up on our groups. They're very affordable, and they're something that you could really use in this moment. The next part is her psychology, and there will be a lot of videos on this. In fact, everything that we talk about here, I'll probably make a ton of different specific videos on. But why do women do this? Why do women attack men? Well, the fact of the matter is that they do, or they are, or maybe it's a cultural thing in the US, but it is very, very common when a woman feels threatened, or especially if she's even done something wrong, she tends to cast blame in these ways that specifically have to do with violence, drug abuse, sexual activity, reputation ruining, all these different things. They're tools that women seem to side to, and men have their own set of these things. It's best not to mire yourself down in the why, but best to protect yourself. Now, another thing that comes up in this is very common. We come up with citing out psychological disorders. All of a sudden, we get a PhD and become doctors in psychology because we've studied a bunch of stuff online about borderline personality disorder, narcissism, and so on. And perhaps we even have a therapist, psychologist, or psychiatrist that we go to that says, you know what, I'm almost positive your wife or ex-wife or partner, or whatever you want to call it, has borderline personality disorder. Here are these traits, and here's the checklist of 9 things, and they only need a certain amount of them, and so on. But this is really not important to you right now. And the only purpose that this serves, and this is very important to you, is that it serves you understanding you're saying yes to that and your overall coping with this. Now, if you were somebody who was married to a narcissist or who has borderline personality disorder, then you have a lot of healing to do, but also you have a lot of fixing to do. And self-responsibility is key. This is where I want to get into the victimhood of masculinity. And again, many of my videos theme around this, and so you can watch a ton of them. To be a man, to be a strong man, to be a powerful man means that you cannot remain a victim. Now, part of victimhood is acknowledging that you have been victimized. Part of that is going through the healing and dealing with the pain of that. But the biggest part, in my opinion, from all of that is realizing the acceptance and strength that you gain from this. Meaning that if you were in a relationship with somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder or bipolar or whatever it is, that's painful. And you did deal with a lot of pain with that. But what does somebody who goes through that do? What are the steps that they do? It doesn't mean that they bitch online. It doesn't mean they make excuses to their friends. It may mean that they are able to announce it to themselves and accept it to themselves and say, look, man, I'm a victim of abuse, and here's what victims of abuse do. The actionable steps that they do is that they go to therapy for it. They may join different groups on it, and they get specific coaching on those things. It doesn't mean that they gossip online. It doesn't mean that they flame somebody. It doesn't mean that because they had that experience means that they need to hate somebody more. It means that ultimately at some point they need to resolve the pain or let the pain pass or work through that pain that they experienced being a victim. It also means that they need to accept that they chose and played a huge part in choosing this person, accepting that different stuff, and saying yes to it essentially. It also means that they need to make specific changes in their lives, one, to deal with the pain and habits that they formed with this, but also get past it so they fix the problems that allowed them to say yes to that. Super, super important in the whole gambit of stuff. Now, that is something that nobody wants to hear when they're going through this, but that is something that gets you to a point of strength. And through acceptance of those things, of going, yeah, man, I'm used to being abused. I'm used to being abused because my ex did this, but probably I had those experiences in my past, and I say yes to things or accept things that might be dangerous or harmful to me, and that's how I see love or success or whatever that is. This is something that is going to give you power, and so much of the men's development community says that you can't do that because it makes you weak or you're going to repeat the problem. No, you're going to repeat that problem if you say no to it and keep the door shut on it. Definitely a topic that we need to explore more when we get into trauma, childhood trauma, abuse, and so on, or spousal abuse and those types of things. One thing that I want to tell you guys that in divorce, separation, and custody battles, you're going to see the worst sides of somebody, meaning that your ex may not be somebody who typically shows, borderline or narcissistic traits about themselves, but in a high stress situation, they may default to that. And in a high stress situation, all of us can show that. And most importantly, you yourself are in a high stress situation and you're going to be seeing a different side of yourself. This is why it's important to get good people around you, like a men's group, like a therapist or psychologist or psychiatrist. This is why you need to have a group of people helping you, guide you through the way. Family and friends are great. I do not dispute that. Get them around you as much as possible. That is a huge part of the game, but it's even more important to have people that are going to serve your needs in a different way. Meaning family and friends may tell you what you need to hear. They might fulfill the gossip and the hate and the anger and all those things that you might feel, the panic, the fear. But a good group of people, like a men's group, or sometimes there are church groups and so on, support groups for men. But like what we have here at Austin Men's Development with Men's Development Excellence and so on, it's very good to have literally 100 guys at any given time who've been there, who've done that, who've felt the pain, but traveled along that journey to become the best men, the best fathers that they can be through this. Always remember, in all of this, something that you hear me say over and over again, you are a general, you're not a soldier, meaning that you see the overall plan for your family, even though that plan is changing. You're not a soldier who gets to sacrifice himself. You're not a soldier who needs to throw himself on a grenade. You're not somebody who can act carelessly or stupidly in this situation. You're somebody that needs to guide your family right now, even if your family is separating apart. And that is something that is very difficult to see in high stress like you might be going through now. So if you want to jump on board with that, guys, check out the free group Austin Men's Development down below. If you want to guarantee that you go through this process not losing hundreds of thousands of dollars like many of us had in the past, and do the right things, and God forbid your family gets taken away and you don't see your kids for many years like has happened to people in our groups before they joined our group, look, sign up for something like Men's Development Excellence. That's going to be the best protection plan you have. You'll learn how to pick the right attorney. You're going to learn how to vet your attorneys if you need to switch your attorney. You'll learn what you need to do. You'll also learn therapeutically where you need to be, what fatherhood is like, repairing a relationship that's had a lot of trauma to it, and what fatherhood in a relationship is like if that relationship splits. These are all things that we do every day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and it's a pretty amazing thing. In any case, guys, thanks so much. Leave your comments down below, and I will get back to you as best as I can. And of course, the best way there is Austin Men's Development on the Facebook group, and we will talk to you guys soon.